Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel, home of the Newcastle United podcast. We are back with a post-match review, Mark, but unlike the usual ones, which are uploaded, we're going to do this live as the match has just finished there not too long ago. Another brilliant result for Newcastle United, 1-0, beating the Scouse Mackhams, thanks to Miggy Almiron, who's absolutely on fire at the minute, mate. Did you enjoy it, Mark?
I did. It was a good game. I think it was a tale of two halves, isn't it? It's one where it was a dominance for the first half, second or third gear in the second, and never really needed to push it. And it was a very, very comfortable win.
Absolutely, mate. Well, we'll get stuck right into it in a second, but just if you're just tuned in or for the first time you've ever seen us, please consider clicking that like and subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're on about 1903 subs, so we're over that 1900 mark, which is amazing. Thank you so much to everybody who clicked it. We're looking to push onto the 2000 barrier now, which would be immense if we can. It really helps the channel grow and everything, guys. So let's get stuck into it there, Mark. So obviously the lineup that we had tonight, Eddie Howe had a totally unchanged side from the previous game, which was quite surprising, really, mate. I mean, we were talking pre-game, weren't we? We had a few changes in our initial lineup. We had, we thought Lascelles was going to come in. I thought Anderson might have got a sniff. But were you surprised that Eddie just stuck with the same lineup, mate, given the fact that there's 3 games in a week?
I think, yeah, I think I touched on this with one of the lads on Facebook as well. In fact, it was Ash. I said on Facebook, I genuinely thought he might have made a few changes with Spurs coming up at the weekend and just trying to just freshen things up. But you can't argue with it, can you? I mean, when you've got a winning team. Well, you drew at the weekend, but in fairness, a winning team playing well. You don't want to make too many changes, and it was a gut feeling for us that they might have done that. I know others came out and said that there was going to be changes in the lineup tonight, and true to form with Eddie, he doesn't do anything that anybody else thinks he's going to do. Plays his own game, and he gets the results from it. So it makes sense to keep the team that's doing well. And there's no injuries. I don't think there's any, anyone with any damage to take on for the weekend. They can have a few days now just to recuperate again, ready for Spurs.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I was quite surprised to see Dan Burns stay at left back, but you know what it is? Looking at the way he plays and the way he was tonight, even, he may not have blistering pace or anything like that, but you know what? He's got such a good positional sense and of his defensive area, kind of where he is. Those big long legs get him out loads of bother in terms of pace. I thought he was fucking immense tonight. When Everton started to slowly come back into that game, to break that dominance that we had, it was really Damari Gray and obviously Gordon that were getting a bit more involved in the play. But I mean, obviously Trippier was utterly sensational, which we'll come on to him in a minute, mate. But I mean, Dan Burn he's not a left back, but he just fits in there so well, doesn't he? Like it's understandable now, as much as I feel a bit livid for Target. You can understand why Target isn't getting in that side, because Dan Burn is not putting the foot wrong, really, is he, at left back?
That's it. At the end of the day, if you're not making any mistakes, you're not giving your manager a reason to take you out of the team, you almost have to say, well, why would you? And he is so dependable. He defends very well. I thought he handled Gordon really well in the first half. Got into him a little bit. He was physical. He wasn't going to let him get round him at all. There were a couple of times when you just thought Gordon might get away from him, but you're absolutely right. You just see that stride come in, and he can keep up enough just to be able to get back and cover that ground and cover the gaps where the sort of those crosses then may come in. So I thought he was very, very good again tonight. Not his best game by any stretch, but just a very, very solid performance once again.
Yeah, but it's interesting. We've seen some comments coming in there from the guys, and just this one in particular from Trolls. Court Meyer, thanks for jumping on board tonight, Trolls. I think Murphy was a little bit of a passenger tonight. I mean, I think when the game started, I think Murphy, like Miggy, he was lively, he was buzzing around with pace, but there was, obviously a fantastic result, 1-0, unbelievable goal from Miggy, which we'll come on to in a second. But if we just look at some of the bits in terms of the performances, maybe that weren't great. I think we are feeling fatigued, Mark, after that 0-0 draw against Man United. I think we are. But Murphy at times, Longstaff, I think as well, held onto the ball too long. He lost the ball. A lot of his passes were a little bit undercooked, I think, and he could have got us in trouble. But yeah, with Murphy tonight, I was obviously a big advocate of Anderson starting. I thought this, Wednesday night under the lights, St James's Park, and you know what? When the lad come on, another amazing cameo from Anderson. Mark, he just has so much compared to Murphy. He just has so much kind of purpose in what he does. Even when he lost the ball and he cut back inside and got it back, and Gordon fouled him, which in my opinion should have been a second yellow and a red card. I thought it was a terrible challenge. I can understand why the ref let it go, but even those little cameos from Anderson, if he keeps doing them, Mark, surely he's got to get in ahead of Murphy soon enough, don't you think?
I think we had in the chat earlier. I think he'll play more and more of these cameos. He comes on with 20, 30 minutes to go, and changes games, and he gives the team a little bit more life. He's got skill to more than most players at the club. He's brilliant.
Did you see that bit when he killed
Brazilian?
When he killed it dead from, I think Trippier whipped it in, and that touch, he just killed it dead. And you thought, this kid's got quality all over me, doesn't he?
That in its sense is the measure of the player, and I think we'll continue to see these cameos of this. I think it will just work his way more and more into the side, and it won't be too long before he starts getting a start. But I think it's Eddie's way of bringing players through, isn't it? Is not overloading them too soon, not bringing them in too quickly, and expecting too much from them. Exactly the way that he handled Bruno at the very start as well. So it's a different situation, but I think he'll handle it almost in exactly the same way, where he'll just bring him in until he is absolutely certain that he's ready to go for a full game.
Yeah, I thought Bruno was good again tonight without being his Bruno best. I think he made some shithouse challenges. I thought he was holding on to the ball well. He was winning his back possession, winning free kicks. I think he did more the dirty side of the game tonight, did Bruno. Apart from obviously the goal, we've got to talk about the goal. It was coming. I think we were huffing and puffing. We had them on the ropes, really. They couldn't get out. Miggy was looking lively, but a lovely bit of play. Obviously, coming across. I think Joe Linton obviously pulls the defender out of position. Gets into the box, and then that ball from Bruno, Mark, the weight of that pass. Perfect. Then Miggy to take that first time. I think the pass is so good that Miggy's buzzing with confidence. I mean, this is the same lad who would have skied that into the Leazers, a year ago, and you see him now, and he's got the confidence to almost dink it. I love a dink it over the top of little T-Rex arms in the top corner. He's got no chance of catching it. But like you say, mate, the pass from Bruno just unbelievable. The weight. Exactly
right. It was absolutely perfect. It was right on the money. It was perfect for Miggy running onto it, and it was just it just sat there just nicely for him to just curl it into the far corner. You're right. Little arms got nowhere near it. He was never going to get anywhere near it, and it was just beautiful to watch. Really, when that just so straight. And he's full of confidence. He's absolutely full of confidence, and the more you can do that is it's just sensational from at the moment. He's in such a rich vein of form.
Oh, mate, long may it continue, because he's such a great lad as well, and he smiles and all that. He's infectious as a footballer. We've spoke about it. Dwight York used to be like that, didn't he, back in the day, with that big smile. Even Papa Cisse for a time was a bit like that, and when you saw him, you just smiled when he was playing. But Tiger Studios is bang on there. We didn't play well, but we did enough to get the 3 points today. Absolutely, couldn't agree more, mate. I think what I loved about tonight as well is it just shows you again what we've done, kind of moving forward. I think Tiger Studios also said we've got to give the Botman a shout out as well. We still haven't lost with Botman at the back. I mean, we spoke a little bit about him the other night, Mark. I think when we were talking, the guy's just immense. He's just immense. 22 years old. It's incredible how good he is now. Never mind how good he can be. And I think him and Shah next to each other. And this is why I think Burn is getting in, because of what Burn offers you. And they have to get Burn in somewhere. And left back's the best place for Burn, because he can't break up that centre-back pairing, because they're so good, aren't they? They're just so composed, Mark. The positional sense is incredible. Just they don't seem to ever get rattled or phased when when they're playing against different types of strikers.
They are just the pair of them are so calm, and it is brilliant to see. He is just 22 years old. He is just
Rolls Royce, we'll call him.
Yeah, but he absolutely is. He is the most calm centre back I've seen in a long time. There's nothing phases him. He's just got that ability to just step forward, take the ball, and just move it quickly, or take the ball off attackers, or just get in the way of things. And he just does things. I use the word perfectly again, but it's almost perfect every time that he goes to challenge for the ball. It's just, he reads it so well, and it's so measured in what he does that he's going to be an absolute superstar. 22 years old. I mean, he could very well stay, if he stays at the club, 10 years. You can get a decade of him being at his very best, and that is just. It's just something to be really, really, really excited about.
Yeah, he could be absolutely phenomenal. I'm just laughing at Jody Toon for life there. If we get a result on Sunday, surely Eddie Howe could be manager of the month. Absolutely. We'll just get Toon Poles to hijack him, mate. He seems to cocked every poll back to Newcastle perspective. But no, you're right, mate. I just think that, looking at the team right throughout, a game like that, I mean, to be fair to Everton, Everton, I actually thought they did all right. I thought they kept us a bit restricted in the first half, probably for the first 20 minutes or so. And I thought in the second half, Frank Lampard must have said something to them to get them G'd up. And I thought they did quite well, again, nullifying us in the second half. I think the crowd, you've got to give the crowd credit as well for winding up Pickford as they always do. They were on sensational form. I think the T-Rex was back in the crowd as well, which I saw, which was brilliant. But even Gordon as well, we mentioned him before. I mean, Kieran Trippier, he doesn't have to score a free kick from 25 yards to be utterly immense. He was my man of the match today, mate. I know we were saying about Miggy, being the goal scorer and everything else and winning the game. But you just look at Trippier's overall contribution, not just his set pieces, his crosses and all that, but his defensive capabilities. He got into Gordon's head. He's very subtly good at that, just winding people up. I love the bit when he was talking to Connor Cody. There was a big Barney, and he was talking to Connor Cody. And obviously, because they're England colleagues, weren't they? And you could see him going, codes. And he went, fuck off. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant because he just wound them up even more. And then you said Wilson steamed in as well, didn't you? It was great to see.
The highlight of my night was watching Callum Wilson steam in from 60 yards away and basically just chest bump Gordon out of the way. It was just, that was priceless. Take the Miggy goal out of the way. That honestly was the highlight of my night. That, along with the commentator saying that they don't see Fabian Schär get forward as he's steamrolling forward on the counter attack.
Maybe you should go back and watch Fabian Schär. He does like to do that quite a bit, to be fair. So.
That's very much the comments of a commentary team that haven't watched an awful lot of Fabian Schär in the past.
I tell you what, though. I'll give Amazon their due, right? They're light years ahead of Sky Sports, in my opinion. I think they do it way better. There's no bias. There's no, we'll give you 5 minutes here or there. They dedicate each individual team, like they do in America, each individual team on that particular Amazon channel is dedicated purely to that game. And I thought it was brilliant. I mean, even at the end there, just before we come on live, I was watching Eddie Howe talking. He was looking at the Mickey goal again because obviously in real time he said, I don't remember any of this because obviously he was so caught at the moment. And then Nick Pope come over and they said that Shea Given was his hero growing up and stuff like that. And it was just really good coverage. Do you know what I mean? And you just think, it's really good to see. So I'm just laughing at Tommy Gill's comment. You're right, Tommy. They must have missed the Forest game and the Burnley game and the Leicester game and every other game that he's charged forward and hit a thunder bastard into the back of the net. But Jimmy's coming with comments.
It was a heck of a run. Let's not get forward. When
mate.
You sometimes don't expect to be the furthest forward player, but as he's starting to overlap into the opposition half, you just think this is quite a counter attack.
Oh, it was sensational. But Jimmy's teeing us up perfectly here, mate. We've got to talk about this. Anthony Gordon. I think I called him a scouse rat that would nick your car radio in the match preview, didn't I? I don't think he'd managed to nick Trippier's radio. He'd probably just block him from getting to the door. I think watching Gordon, the good and the bad sides of Gordon, I can see where the potential of this player is, and people see good sides of him and that. But Mark, that theatrical fall in the box with Dan Burn, I mean, I mean, he didn't get booked for the dive, did he? Got booked for his reaction afterwards.
Yeah.
When it all kicked off. I mean, what was your take on that, mate?
Well, he's a diving little prick, isn't he?
And Mark's normally the nice one.
At the end of the day, that's what he's all about. I'm sorry. He is. He's a very, very good player. Genuinely, he's got all the skill in the world. He's got all the talent in the world, but he lets himself down. And if he could just get rid of that out of his game, and I understand why he does it. He's looking to try and get penalties. He's looking to try and get free kicks and stuff. It is gamesmanship, but it just looks horrendous, and he's not very good at it. Like, he doesn't get the results out of it, does he? He's always getting caught like it, and you just think you're not good enough at that part. He's very, very good.
He's got loads of potential to be a smashing player, to be fair.
But he's not good enough at hiding the cheating. He's just not, and it just makes him look.
There was a bit. I think there was a bit on the first. Was it the first half? It was the first half. I think it was when he did it perfectly. He got in front of Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy pulled him down, and he got a free kick. And I thought, that's what you need to do, Gordon. People should be fouling you. You shouldn't be overreacting and doing stuff the way. He actually reminds me a lot of Joey Barton. When Joey Barton was at City, and even when he came to us, when he just has that moment of he just loses it, and you think you don't need to do that. He was up against experienced pros. Certainly in Kieran Trippier and stuff like that. And even when people are trying to calm him down, I think Wilson at one point told him, he said, look, just calm down. He was like barking back at Wilson, and you were like, but you know what? For me, I mean, it's weird because Everton have got some good players now, right? And some proper leaders like Connor Cody and Tarkowski, more on his tackle on Fraser in a minute. But in them two players, I think they're proper leaders. Why didn't one of them grab a hold of them and pull them back? They're not doing him any favours by letting them go off like that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. They've got the basis now of a very good squad. I think that they're just finding their way a little bit. And
they need a goal scorer. They need somebody who can find movements, make runs.
I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin will do that. I just think he's not fully fit yet, and there were signs of his movement was fairly good, especially first half. Yeah. Second half, it would just. I mean, there's a Everton fan in the comments here.
I was just going to pull it up, actually. Great to see you in the comments as well, by the way, guys. Thanks for coming on. You're more than welcome to come on.
But one shot in the first half, no shots in the second half. When they dominated the position, I think it was something like, it was almost 50-50 first half, and I think Everton had 58% possession in the second half, and they did nothing with it. There was just nothing.
At one point, they had 90% possession against our 10 at one point, and they just didn't do it with it.
No, exactly, and that's got to be a worry when you're not with the amount of talent there is there, and let's not be too harsh. That there is talent at that club, they're not doing anything with it. Do you know who they could do with Everton? Just thinking there, when obviously the Everton fan, if they're still in the comments, I'd like to hear what they said. But Everton could do with someone like Ayoze Perez. I honestly think that someone who can find those little pockets of space. Can just pop up with a goal here and there. It's not going to be prolific. That's what Calvert-Lewin's for. But Perez is good at doing that type of thing. Obviously, he's a bit up and down at Leicester. Someone like that would be perfect, I think, for Everton in their particular squad now, because they don't seem to have a player. I know they've got Mopé, but I don't think he's as good as Perez at doing that, finding those little pockets, pulling off defenders, forcing them into challenges. It may be winning your pens or free kicks or whatever in key areas. So I think Perez would be a good shout for the Everton. I think he certainly works well off another centre forward as well. So he'd work. Yeah, I think he'd work well with Mopé or with Calvert-Lewin. So Calvert-Lewin, not a bad shout, I guess. There's somebody to play in that sort of role is almost a 10, isn't he? And just find those little bits of space outside the box, just inside the box, and cause havoc like that. So he's got that part of his game. So it'd be an interesting one for them to look at. Yeah. To be fair, though, I think with the likes of Onana as well, and I think they've got good players. They're better than they were last season. There's no doubt about that. They're still not having the greatest time in terms of the wrong end of the table. But I think they'll be all right this season. I think they'll go on a little run and they'll get results and they'll pull themselves out where they are. But I mean, tonight, going back to Newcastle, because we are a Newcastle United podcast after all. Back to Newcastle. Let's not talk too much. But we're not slide road past the ball, even though I've got the cup out. We're not slide road past the ball. But I just think looking at the squad, I mean,
going to Joe Linton actually as well. Joe Linton started well. He had that powerhouse look about him. He was when it started to boil over a little bit, he made that stupid challenge. He got a yellow, and for me, it was brilliant management from Eddie Howe to hook him at halftime for Joe Willock. I thought Joe Willock was brilliant as well when he come on. The legs that he provided, he always wanted the ball. And one good thing about Willock too, that we were talking about weeks ago when we did our special on him, which is still up if you haven't seen anybody. He was getting in the box, Mark, wasn't he? He was hungry for a goal tonight, Willock. He wanted a goal tonight.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I say this pretty much every week. The goals are coming from. You can see a run of goals coming, and I'm probably going to get proved wrong at this, but he's just making those right runs again now, and he's getting into the positions to have a shot or to have a header, and he's just not quite connecting well enough. So they are. I thought he was very good, and he just gives you more, another level of energy when he came on as well. Those bursting runs forward in the second half, particularly down that sort of left side where he was just running away from a couple of players at one point. You just thought that's what you want to see him doing.
Perhaps it's a great start by BT as well. It's just one defeat for us since making this our highest points tally at this stage of the season since the 2011-12 campaign, and we finished 5th. Great shout, BT. I think the way we're playing, we spoke about this earlier, Mark, didn't we? We were saying that if we keep going the way we're going, and we're in the position that we're in now, come January, after the World Cup, I think we will go big. I think we will push the button on a couple of players. I really do, to add depth to that squad. But one thing I really enjoyed looking tonight was, and I know Tune for Life saying we need more strength in that midfield with a couple of other signings, but one thing I really enjoyed seeing tonight was the way that Willock and Anderson linked up, that energy, those legs, the little 1-2s. I remember it was one when I think when Anderson clipped the ball in the box for him, and Willock just didn't get he got a little bit too over the top with it. But it was Willock got the ball, he spun a bit like he did with the Leicester goal for Bruno, but this time he had an outlet and he slipped it down to Anderson, stayed on side, and then he went straight into the box, and Anderson dinked it. And I thought to myself, ooh, that could look really good in a couple of weeks' time if they get a little bit more game time together, mate. What was your take on that one?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and they'll grow into that
absolutely
that role together, won't they? That link up will work more and more the more they play together at that level as well. And it's another exciting one to look forward to. The more you get Anderson into the game and the more you get him linking with those players, he will bring the best out of them because I love him.
He's just brilliant. I love him.
He has that ability just to find an inch of space, just to cut back and just play a ball or beat a player. And he's just so comfortable with the ball at his feet. Yes, You'll see a couple of touches. There was one or two tonight where he turned and the ball just got away from him a little bit, but his work rate to then track and try and win the ball back. There was I think one on the left hand side where he sort of turned away from the box, lost it, and within half a second he pounced on it to challenge.
That was the woman Gordon fouled him, I think.
It was just that level of effort as well. And we've seen in the past where players they lose the ball and that's it. They give up. His absolute will is to not give up and to not lose the ball. So, and like I say, those links will get better and better, and you'll get more and more of those with the other players around him. But certainly that one with Willock looks to be one that will produce.
Absolutely, that won't be lost on anyhow either, I don't think. Obviously, Fraser come on tonight, and he looked busy, and he got the living shit kicked out of him from minute one when he come on. I think I jokingly tweeted from our Twitter page. If you haven't followed, guys, it's up there. That it was like Homer Simpson falling down the cliff in that Simpsons episode where he just keeps getting hurt the further down that he goes. Every time I saw Fraser, he was just on his arse, wasn't he? So.
Yeah, I mean, the tackle by Tarkowski was an awful one.
Naughty. Is that a red card, mate? Is that a red card?
It's low. I don't think. I think you're right. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think. There's no intent. I know there doesn't have to be. His studs on up. Yes, he goes down on his foot. I don't think it's a blatant red card. I think if it's given as a red, it probably stays as a red. If it's not given as a red, it'll stay as yellow in that regard. So I think it's borderline, isn't it? And we saw Ampadu in the Euros that got sent off for something similar, but I didn't agree with that being a red card.
No.
I wasn't arguing with that. It was an awful challenge. Yes, I'm not sure it warranted being a red.
Yeah. Do you think Bruno should have had a goal tonight as well? I think he had a good few chances, didn't he? Where he just rolled it past the post a couple of times. I can't believe they didn't close him down. How many times did he take that shot? Everton didn't close him down once. That's terrible, football and intelligence by Everton, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there were a couple of times first half where he broke and he on his left foot, and you just praying for him to hit it. And he didn't get it quite right. And then the one, was it 2 minutes after Miggy's goal, where he just pulls it slightly left of the goal.
Just rolled it past, didn't it? Yeah, it's such a shame. He's definitely, I think with Bruno, he's had a license to roam. I don't think we'll see him being this defensive midfielder. If anything else, I could see us buying a defensive midfielder just to allow Bruno more license to go. People have talked about Joe being there. PK, our own PK, has talked about Joe being there. I think Joe showed tonight even the discipline isn't there to play that role. I think he gets yellow cards too quickly. And I think if you put Joe Linton in that defensive role, I think there's a good chance you're going to see him sent off more and more. You need somebody with a bit more nous and a bit more, kind of craftsmanship to do those horrible fouls, like you said, and get away with them. Do you know what I mean? And have 3 or 4 fouls before you get yellow card.
As good as I think Joe Linton has been, he's not a defensive midfielder. He's not going to be
or a 6 or whatever you want to call him.
No, he's not going to sit in the middle of the park and shepherd the back four and be the ball carrier.
Can Shelby do that? Can Shelby do that or not? Has Shelby not got the legs?
Shelby, I'm not sure Shelby has the legs, but he has the ability to read, and he's certainly got the passing ability to play as that quote-unquote
deep lying
quarterback. So he can do that job. He's not a DM. He's not going to do a Kante. He's not going to do a Makelele or that sort of player, or a Fabinho. But he's very good at his own role, and to be that sort of ball player in the middle there is what he's good at. That will allow Bruno to do what he did last season as well. So, I think the good signs that he is back in the squad and he's coming back to fitness, that hopefully then for Newcastle's point of view allows them to get Bruno playing a little bit more further forward and getting in the goals a little bit more. I mean, he's even playing in the role he is at the moment. He's not far off scoring pretty much every game, but it will certainly give him a little bit more license or freedom to get forward.
Absolutely. We've got John in the comments. Hi, John. Good to see you joining us, mate. Do you think Isak will play ahead of Miggy on the right when he's fit? I think at the minute, Mark, if I can just take this, mate, at the minute, I don't think Miggy can be dropped. I think he's that essential to the team because of the way he presses from the front, the way he creates space. I mean, and the fact that he's getting goals now to his game. I just don't think that Miggy can really afford to be dropped at the minute. Isak's going to find it hard to get straight back in the side, I think, unless Wilson has one of his, touch wood, characteristic injuries, which hopefully he doesn't. Obviously, it was a big blow for Isak being out for as long as he is, Mark. But I think the fact that Sweden not in the World Cup gives us more time, as Eddie Howe said, to get him right. And it was an interesting one. I think Eddie Howe said he came with a bit of a hamstring twinge. He wasn't quite over a hamstring issue, I think. So they've never had him at his optimum. And I thought to myself, fuck me, if that was him not at his optimum against Liverpool, Jesus Christ, what we're going to have when the kid's fully fit.
He's going to be a monster, isn't he?
Isn't he just, mate?
I think you're right. I think, Wilson's fit. He's not going to come in and play as the 9. The place that I could probably see him coming in is that left-hand side and playing
ahead of Maxi.
Yeah. If Maxi is still struggling for fitness, I think you almost want Maxi to be the first choice down that side, don't you? But I think Isak very well could be that position is his for a time until the inevitable probably happens and Wilson does get injured again or has a few games out, and then he plays through the middle. But I do think while there's that question mark over Maxi's fitness, that if Isak can get fit and get back in the side, then that's going to be the position to, for him to cover.
Absolutely. Alan's buzzing in the comments there about today. He's not bothered about the performance after the abuse Everton fans gave us last season. Great one. They did become extremely unlikable, Alan, I must admit. I think I said that on the preview as well. Bobby's in the comments saying Miggy is too lovable to be dropped. Absolutely. Well, hold on a minute. We've got some strange comments coming up there, which I will not.
Yeah,
go on, Mark. You're on the buttons. But some weird comments there, unless anybody's into that kind of shit. But I think Wayne's come up with the comments there. He's mentioned two players that I absolutely love, mate, and I know you love as well. When you say DM, what about Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira? To be honest with you,
they weren't the first names out of my mouth. To be honest with you,
off your list, absolutely. But do you know what it is with them, though, Mark? They were all action midfielders, a little bit like Bruno. I know they were talking to Roy Keane about Bruno, and he was actually giving him a lot of praise, wasn't he? For being an all action midfielder, and I think Bruno has. I'm not saying he's as good as them. That's pure hyperbole. But Bruno has. He's better. Of course, he's better. But Bruno has the ability to be what they were for their side. Roy Keane could track back and make bad, dirty tackles and last ditch slides. So could Vieira. But then equally, they could burst forward and win you the game and score 2 goals against Juventus, like Keane did against Spurs in London Derby or Manchester United, like Vieira did. And I really think that Bruno has that capability as well to do that. But I think he's so good in the attacking third, Mark, isn't he? You almost don't want him back doing that. You want him to be on the swivel and ready to start that play for us as we break, really.
Yeah, you want that freedom with him. You don't want him tied down to. You almost don't want him tied down to a position. You want to give him the ability to roam a little bit more and get in those forward positions, exactly like he did last season, because he played so high up the pitch at times that he just influences that attacking third so well, and he gets into those positions in and around the box. So
I've got to put these comments. Sorry, thank you, Paul, for reporting those sides. But it was this one from Mark. I love. You don't need Paul when you've got Mickey goals. Well said, Mark. Well said, mate. That's the most central thing we've seen.
There was a comment earlier on, and it's gone back quite a bit in the comments. So it was is the team photo been produced?
Look at Mark's so quick on the draw with these things, isn't he, mate? Class. Look at Joe Willock, man. He's having the time of his life. Fucking superb. I love it. Is Adam Pearson in there? Can you see him? Is he hiding in the back somewhere? I'm only joking. Somebody will superimpose him in the back there somewhere, mate. But no, honestly, it's so enjoyable. I said this on the preview, mate, and it's so enjoyable being a Newcastle fan right now. You go into these games, you used to go to these games nervous, you go into these games almost expectant. We're going to get a performance, we're going to get a win. And I just think that, we're missing key players as well. People need to remember that. In the media, they're probably not giving us enough credit for that. We are missing, Alan St. Maximin, Alexander Isak, and John Joe Shelby. They're 3 massive players for this squad. Arguably all 3 walk into the starting 11, really. And we're missing them, and we're still getting results. We're 6th in the table. And to be honest with you, Mark, it might sound like a bit of hyperbole for me, but I think the way we're playing and the spirit and the way the lads are putting in the shift, even when we don't play well, we're picking up points. I can't see us dropping out of the top 10 all season that we were playing, mate. I really can't. I think looking at the rest of the league, I generally think we've got more than they have. Certainly the bottom half of the league. Yeah,
I think that there's a few teams at the bottom end that are a bit of a mess at the moment.
Leicester being one.
When you look at the bottom 4, Leicester are in a bit of a mess. Forest are starting to just pick up a couple of results, but still don't look particularly great. Wolves struggling to score goals. Villa have been pretty poor. Leeds have looked good at times, but have struggled to actually get results. Obviously, Everton, Southampton picked up a win tonight, I think, as well. So they've pulled themselves a little bit of a. Funny enough, there's 4 Midlands teams in the bottom 4. Jeez, what does that tell you about?
There's too many of them in the league anyway. Fucking relegate a few of them. There's too many of them in the league anyway. But I'm going to give Bobby a shout there. I miss Crafu. How dare I miss Crafu? Sorry, Bobby.
Absolutely. And on your point as well, if you go back a year and a half, who'd have thought that Shelby would be such a big miss at times?
Or Emil Kraft.
But they have,
I remember people saying Emil Kraft couldn't carry the waters. That's how shit he was, and you look at him now, and Joe Linton as well, and my God, mate, what's happened?
But no, get back to that. I think Newcastle definitely more than enough to be in that top 10. No doubt about that whatsoever. But the way that they're playing, you wouldn't bet against them being in that top 6 at the end of the season if they can add 1 or 2 more. And I think that's key. I think when you get to January, you can add a couple more quality players into that mix. You've definitely got the chance of staying there and being able to push on a little bit more than perhaps maybe West Ham have and Leicester have previously. So it's definitely not out of the realms of possibility.
Absolutely not. John's mentioned there about the the Brazilian Andre Santos that we've done a few room hazards on before in the past. He might be the one to come in that DM role. He's 18 years old, but unless he's absolutely class, I think, I don't think he walks straight into the team. Alan's mentioned about Isak. I think there is a bit of a point here, but I think Isak is the long-term Wilson replacement, and I think Eddie Howe's been very cute in the way he's talked about him, hasn't he? And he said he will be here for a long time and do very well for us for a long time. So I think what he said to Isak is, look, Callum isn't going to last, forever here. And I think all this talk about Wilson even coaching the youngsters, I think is Eddie Howe almost giving Wilson that transitional move into that part of the game. Because Wilson's had, bless him, he's a brilliant centre forward, but he's had so many injuries that's probably taken years and years off his career. Getting back from these massive cruciate knee injuries and that takes years off your career. Look at Shearer. When he had his bad ones, even Shearer arguably played longer than he should have done as well, Mark. But I think Isak will slowly and surely become the number 9. I think, mate. It won't be this season, maybe, but it could be next season.
I do think there's a point there from Alan. I think you pay £63 million. You're expecting that player to be a starter. You're not expecting him to be on the bench. I think he's got, again, though, it's a player coming from outside. He's going to take a little bit of time to really get fully up to speed with the way that Eddie Howe wants him to play. We saw immediately the difference in the way that he played against Liverpool and the way that he's been asked to play previously, because he's never been asked to press like he had. Yeah. And if you go back to his Sociedad days, he was never asked to press. He was never asked to do any of that real work, for an entire game, and he did it solidly straight away. So even that, you see the difference in what Eddie Howe can get him to do. I do still think it will take a little bit of time for him to fully adapt to the league, especially now because he's had so long out this time as well. And if he's going to be out until January now, or the end of December, and it's going to take a little bit of time to just to come back into it again. But
get his feet again, get his sharpness back again.
Exactly. Yeah. But
what do you think about the goals? What do you think about the goals comment from Alan? Sorry, cut across you, mate. The fact that Wilson hasn't scored in 3 games, is that a worry?
Strikers go through phases, don't they? And is it that he's playing badly, or is it just he's not having the ball drop to him in the positions that he's had them before?
There's that one about Isak, and technically he should have had 2 against Liverpool, so he should have had 3 and 2, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I just think, your striker is only really as good as the service that they get, and has Wilson had the chances in the last couple of games to score goals? True. He's not really. He was
screaming tonight, wasn't he? Because Murphy didn't square it. Murphy went back to Murphy, didn't he? So there was a couple of times when he made great runs and he wasn't found tonight. So
exactly. So if that ball lands at his feet properly, and there was a chance, was it second half where it drops and he has a sort of a half.
Oh, it was like an overhead kick type thing.
Tries to overhead kick.
Yeah.
And that another day will come off. But that's
good defending though by Cody and I think Cody and Tarkovsky to block it. And they're good defenders, them two though. They're good defenders on this. So it's possibly that as well. We've got Harry in the comments saying 7th, mate. Realistic. Bobby thinks 6 is a bit too much. The big 6 have huge squads compared to us. Tommy thinks 7th as well, for sure. Alan's just reminded we were missing Hendricks, Hayden and Gale. Well, maybe not. Great one. Did you see that clip of, was it Trippier doing the Halloween thing? When he had the camera and he was screaming and people were jumping out and scaring him. And shout out to Emil Franchi. If you don't follow Emil on Twitter, Emil's absolutely hilarious. And Emil put on when Trippier in January, when Hendrick and Clark come back and Trippier sees him in the dressing room. It was fucking great crack. So massive shout out to Emil for that. That was brilliant. But yeah, I mean, they're never going to feature again for us, mate. Come January, they'll be out the door, I'd imagine.
Something's got to go seriously wrong for them to ever set foot on the field again, and for the first team. So I think that time has ended, hasn't it? And let's just leave them in the past.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. But it's interesting. I mean, Trolls is saying that he thinks that Wilson's missing too many sitters. I mean, Wilson's been out a long period of time as well. I think because he come back with that goal straight away, which was a tap-in, really kind of nicked Willock's goal, didn't he? Something like that, I think it was. So it's probably Willock's goal, really. But I think because we're just so used to Wilson scoring goals, I think when he goes through 2 or 3 games without, we'll maybe focus in on that more than the fact that he's still making the runs, he's still getting the chances. I think the goals will come back for Callum. I mean, what worries me about Callum, and it's always the same with Callum, is injuries. It's just injuries, time and time again. The way he plays the game as well. He's such a good centre forward. He holds the ball up well. He's got that turn of speed mark, hasn't he, on the shoulder of the defender. And it's the muscular injuries, isn't it, for Callum? Because he's getting to that age now, and I think that's always the worry, isn't it? And you're wondering when the next one's going to come.
That's always the fear, isn't it? You know one's coming, and it's just how long it is, and hopefully it's not.
For God, touch wood.
He might get a good run now, where he doesn't pick one up, and if he can slightly adapt his game to try and manage that as well. And again, if Isak's fit, then it limits the minutes that Wilson is absolutely needed to play. So he doesn't have to play 90 minutes or 80 odd minutes. He can rest a little bit more. You can move the forward players around a little bit more to give him a chance to just recover a little bit better in between games as well. So you want him fit, though. You want him in that number 9 role because he is the best finisher at the club. He is the goal scorer. He will guarantee you goals. Yes, he might not have scored for a couple of games, but it happens. Do you know what I mean? As I said, if he's not getting the proper service and he's not getting the sort of clear-cut chances, that'll happen. But those goals will come. I mean, Newcastle are playing so well, and they are creating so many chances that they will fall to him, and we know that he'll put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think Alan's saying there as well. He definitely thinks we're fighting for 7th. That's why West Ham and Brighton results have been so good for us. Everton, Brighton, Leicester. Yeah, they're all kind of dropping off, aren't they, really? And I think we're stealing the edge on them. The big thing for us is obviously keeping people fit, keeping Trippier fit. The World Cup will be a big thing for Trippier and Pope going to the World Cup. I don't think Pope will play as much, even though he's a far better goalkeeper than the guy he was playing against tonight, in my opinion, and your opinion, Mark, as well. I know that, where you stand on it. But Trippier coming back from the World Cup fit will be the big worry for us. I know we're going to cover the Toon players at the World Cup, so make sure you subscribe, guys, and stay tuned to that when it happens. But just talking about some of the stuff in January, and talking about what Eddie Howe does with players, mate. I'd love to see what Eddie Howe could do with James Maddison. I really would love to see what he could do with that kid, mate, because that kid is a player and a half. And if he can teach Maddison to press and to do other parts of the game that he's maybe not so good at, I mean, fucking hell, what a player you can have on your hands there, mate.
I mean, you talk about chances being created, don't you? I mean, look at his output over the last couple of seasons. It was 8 goals, 12 assists last season or something. So the lad just creates chances and takes chances. So he's full of goal contributions, and to see how he would play in an Eddie Howe side that is already creating an absolute shitload of chances, then it would be a sight. So definitely one that you can hope for as Newcastle fans that he is one that can come in January. And if Leicester is still hanging around the bottom of the league, this is definitely one to pursue.
Yeah, he won't get in a World Cup squad. I don't think Maddison will get in a World Cup squad. Even though he's been class, he won't.
Well, I was going to say, as good as he's probably been, and he's had some down games as well, which I think is his problem. That he's had a few games. He was terrific against Forest, but he was a little bit average at the weekend. But he's just got so much in his locker.
I think Trolls is saying that I wouldn't buy from Premier League teams that messed us around one time too many. I kind of see where he's coming from. I mean, if you look at the likes of Botman and Bruno coming from Ligue 1, 2 of the best players in our squad now, and 2 of the most sought after young players in Europe, and we got them for an absolute snip We got them for less than Manchester United playing for Anthony, the winger who just spins around in a circle. So yeah, that is good business, to be fair. So, but I mean, Maddison is just such a good player, mate. And I think there must have been a chance for the club to get him in the summer, because they wouldn't have gone at it like they did, I think, if they hadn't had a sniff that he wanted to come. And I think that'll be reignited in January, and I'm confident that'll happen. So Alan's saying, remember, lads, like I say, games like tonight are so important. Keep the clean sheet. Strikers win matches, defenders win titles. Absolutely, mate. I couldn't agree more, Alan. A couple more before we shoot off, Mark. Is Diaby still a shout with Bayern playing so bad? Do you want to take that one, mate?
Yeah, I think it's definitely another one to look at. I'm not sure what his, to be honest, I'm not sure what his form's been like the last few games. I know
he's been a bit up and down. I think he's only had a handful of all right games. I think mostly a bit.
But again, he's young, isn't he? He's in that mold of young player that can massively improve. And look, if Bayern are playing badly and then the wrong end of where they want to be, then it's definitely worth a shout. And has his stock dropped a little bit more? So that price that you were maybe looking at in the summer of it being 50, 60 million, does that come down a little bit more? And does that work in Newcastle's favour by just
say with Isak? That would do with Isak, mate. Yeah, he had a bad season, didn't he? And then he was down. BT saying there we should get a good result against Spurs on Sunday. They were poor tonight. I mean, I think a lot of teams will be feeling the fatigue, Mark, won't they, with these crammed together fixtures in 1 week. We'll be the same, no doubt about that. And it makes you wonder what lineup we'll kind of come at on the weekend. Whether we go at Spurs the same way we will. I mean, Wilson started tonight. Do you think Wilson will start at the weekend, or do you think he'll go with Chris Wood?
I don't think he'll play Wood. I don't think Wood now is a start. And I think against Spurs as well, you want more movement. You need him to play on the shoulder a little bit and create space for the likes of Bruno and Miggy, and it's working. I can't see there being any changes again. I'll probably be wrong now because we've been wrong every time we've given our thoughts on this, but the way that they're playing, I just don't, unless there's any sort of knocks or anything, I can't see him changing the side.
It depends on Shear's hamstring, doesn't it, after tonight? He was limping against Man United, and he was limping again tonight. So,
but in all fairness, he goes down with the injury, and then he does that lung burst and 50-yard run afterwards. So that's because he's immense.
I loved it when he ran 40 yards to push Gordon as well. That was probably one of the best things he did all night, to be fair. So that was quite enjoyable. But I think that's us pretty much wrapped up, Mark. So we just wanted to jump on for a bit of a quick post-match review. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments. We've had loads of you tonight. Really love it. As I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, click the like and subscribe button. Help us try and get that 2,000 mark. It'd be a big milestone for us. We love doing this. It's all free content. We don't charge anybody. We don't plan to charge anybody. We just love talking about the tune with you guys, as always. And I think we're going to be back tomorrow, Mark, with Evermore, because it was meant to be tonight. I think
it was supposed to be night. We'll have the full podcast will be tomorrow night.
Absolutely. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:00. I think we're looking for, guys. So come and join us on there if you haven't already. And let's keep supporting our team of Co United. Have a good night, whatever you're doing. Go have a nice sleep or have a beer or whatever. We've got another 3 points. We're 6 in the league. We're fucking mint. We'll be back tomorrow at 7:00. See you later, guys.
Take care, guys.